all of you who listen to Submersion and own an Android device, go to the Google Play Store and download the Podcast Republic app. It's a fantastic app that allows you to get all of your favorite podcasts directly on your Android device. I personally use the app and I love it. I can search for the podcast I want to listen to, select it as a favorite, and have it just a click away. Make sure to select Submersion as a favorite so you don't miss any of our new episodes. Again, the app is the Podcast Republic app, available on Android devices. Episode 75! Woo!
Now
Made it, boys.
Now that's a big one.
The big 7.5.
I got to look that up. That has got to be one of the special anniversaries.
Oh,
that's true.
Is.
What do you think it is? Platinum?
I feel like it'd almost have to be.
Glass?
I have the answer. I have the answer.
Is it crystal? Crystal Skull?
It's Christmas.
What's it?
All right. What is it? The answer for United States, actually unlisted, because at 60 we hit diamond. I guess they just don't figure people are going to make it to 75.
Not many do.
But over in the UK, they do recognize it as the diamond university of the anniversary. Diamond
University.
Diamond University anniversary.
Oh, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's appropriate for this, because this movie is a diamond in the rough. Am I right, guys?
Oh, not really. That's not right.
No? Okay.
This is not a diamond in the rough. It's a pretty exposed film out there.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is, man. And I think we're going to try to keep this thing a little shorter than we have been our last one.
Are we though?
Is this the biggest?
Yeah, we're going to try.
Is this the biggest film we've done? It's got to be this or like Aquaman.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
that's
I
true.
guess we did do that. Yeah. But by the way, this is the last movie for Does This Really Need a Sub Movie Month?
Thank God.
And we do have a few special episodes coming up. Zach and I have been talking about doing some gaming episodes and stuff. And Brahm is going to be in on one. We are actually going to be interviewing the creator and a former sub-commander, Commander Benford, on They Come Unseen. So look forward to that within the next few weeks here.
Just a little tease for all you listeners.
Yeah.
For all those tabletop gaming nerds, yeah. Jinx.
Yeah, man. You just jinx me?
I jinxed you. Buy me a Coke.
Oh, dive. Dive.
What began as an innocent conversation among friends would soon spiral out of control and later be referred to by future generations as the eighth wonder of the modern world. Mac East Second Floor Studios takes you on the journey of your lifetime as your captains, Alex the Mustard Man, the artist formerly known as Brahm, Jamie the Brain, Kyle El Capitan, and Zach the Backbone present Submersion. All right, Backbone and Mustard Man, you two duke it out. What did we get to watch?
You can take a Mustard.
How do we duke it out though? Do we just fight?
Do we have a drag race?
Verbal abuse, man.
Yeah,
every time.
Yeah, I think we actually should drag race for this, Zach.
All right,
That'd be a
someone
good
comes
idea.
down.
All right.
Yeah. What two vehicles do we have in this race? What do you each drive?
A Tesla X.
Nice.
Ooh.
Good one.
Driving a 2016 Honda Civic.
Interesting.
It's actually a car that's commonly souped up out on the streets, but I'm going to have to give the edge to the Tesla X.
Well, let's count it down. Let's find out.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Race!
Whoa, shit. It's a big fireball.
I didn't even hear that Tesla running. That thing's so quiet.
That's
Slow and steady wins the race.
It's an electric car. You don't hear them at all.
Wow.
Enough messing around.
Yeah.
We watched The Fate of the Furious, the 8th installment into the Fast and Furious movies.
Yes.
And directed by F. Gary Gray, which is tough to look at and say.
F. Gary Gray.
F. Gary Gray.
What's the F stand for?
Fuck.
Frederick?
Felix.
Nice.
Is that for real?
Name.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Felix Gary
wow.
Gray.
Why wouldn't you just go by
Yeah,
Felix?
you should go by that.
Damn cat ruined it.
I'll write to him, see what he says.
Well, there was
Good
already
idea.
a famous Felix, the cat. So
Yeah. That's true.
All right.
All right. And before we get into anything, I do want to know how many installments did other people watch prior to this? Was everyone caught up?
Yes, I've seen all of them, and just for watching this one, I watched number 3, even though this one 3 has nothing to do with the rest of the series at all.
Tokyo Drift.
Yeah, Tokyo Drift. I just
it's
like that one.
closest to number 7. Not this one, but number 7 has elements of Tokyo Drift incorporated into it and different characters brought back in. Not this one though.
I've seen all of them, and I own 1 through 7.
Nice.
I love these movies.
I've seen 1 and 2, and then this one.
Which is a really big gap that you kind of miss
It's a pretty big gap.
there.
At
At that point, you're like, oh, don't expect Vin Diesel in this one since he's gone.
I do have a funny story with it. I told a couple of guys last week. In high school, I went with a friend, or rather a group of friends, high school buddies, to Norris Lake for vacation, boating, tubing, all of that kind of stuff. And at the place we were staying, it was a cottage, in the woods there, they had a DVD player, and I'm pretty sure they only had one movie, and that movie happened to be Too Fast, Too Furious. So we watched that.
One of the worst of the series.
We loved it at the time. It was before IMDb or any of that was big, and no one was really tainting our view of it. And it was the only movie we had, so we watched the shit out of that. I don't think they had cable or anything, so literally they had this movie. So we watched it 5 or 6 times, and then we went back to Norris Lake the following year, same cabin, and it was still the only movie they had, so we watched it another 5 or 6 times.
That's awesome.
So Paul Walker and I think that was Tyrese Gibson, right? We had them.
Yeah.
And Eva
That's when
Mendes.
Luda came in that one, and then Eva Mendes was in there, and she's only been in one other one. I think she showed up in one other one.
Very number
briefly.
4 then?
Yeah, I think it may have been 4. I can't remember. She showed up in another one, I thought, as a cameo.
Yeah, because then they had her in a post-credit scene when you found out.
Yeah.
What's her name was still alive?
Right.
Letty?
Letty. Yeah, I almost wanted to say Natty. That ain't right.
Yeah, I'd
You know what? It says
all of
Fast
them.
5. Yeah, Fast 5, uncredited cameo. Yeah, I knew it.
Okay. I've seen all of them. I have. Well, Alex currently has my copy of Fast 5. I don't know how I'm going to get that back.
I do
You've had
not.
that for years now.
I have looked through all of my movies forever. I do not have it. I do not
Damn it.
have
Well,
it.
you know what to get me for my birthday. Fast 5.
Fast 5. All right. VHS, right?
VHS, if you can find it. And
got it.
I don't have the other ones, but yeah, I have seen them all. I do enjoy this series, and I was pleasantly surprised because I was actually on a flight back on Sunday from Baltimore, and this woman was sitting next to me on the plane, and she was freaking out about turbulence and that type of stuff, and she puts her phone down on her tray table and starts watching a movie to calm herself, and she's watching the first one, The Fast and the Furious.
Wow.
So I sat there and watched that whole thing, and then as soon as that stopped, Tokyo Drift kicked on. I was
Nice.
like, hell yeah, dude. Could timing be any better right now? I was super pumped about it. Although, I couldn't hear anything, but she had the subtitles on, luckily, so I was just sitting there watching it.
The whole movie?
Whole movie, yeah.
You just couldn't hear anything. You just read the whole movie.
Yeah, well, I had, I was listening to my own music or whatever, so, I had my own soundtrack to the movie. It was kind of interesting, but you don't really need to necessarily hear a whole lot of what's going on, especially when you've seen these so many times.
Right. Yeah, I had seen up to Fast 5, which was hotly anticipated at bedmovietwins.com, but then turned out to be very good. And so we had watched all of the first 4 in preparation. Then it got incredibly good reviews, probably the best of the series, I think. It kind of descends from there, I think.
Fast
step
5
by step.
was legit.
Yeah, and then
Love that movie.
so I remember that being very disappointing at the time. Fast 5
Because
wasn't
it
going
was
to
so
qualify
good?
because it's so good. And so then I didn't watch 6 or 7 because they got reasonable reviews, or 8. And so then, yeah, this whole weekend I was trying to, they could just keep on getting longer and longer. I had the director's cuts as well. So they were even longer. Each of them had like 15 extra minutes of footage or whatever. And I swear my wife probably thought I was watching the same movie, like just constantly, just like cars driving. And she's like, it's so loud. Like I had to keep on, she'd come at me, it's so loud. I'm like, I have the subtitles on. You can't hear anyone speak anymore. But like the explosions in the cars were so loud that you had to turn it pretty much the volume all the way off, or else it's super annoying and you can't live with someone with the movie going on. So,
Right.
Yeah, but I got through it. I powered through it.
We should probably get right into this soon, though.
I mean, we probably should, because it was like a 2 hour and 30-minute movie or whatever.
Yeah. All right, let's kick it off right now. So we open up in Havana, Cuba, and guess what? The man, Dom, and his lady, Letty, are on their honeymoon.
Yeah, and he's looking sweet. He's got that gleaming globe. You just want to touch that head because it's looking pretty nice. And you're not going to be disappointed with this movie if you're into very bald men, because he's one of 3 very orbital, nice skulls to observe. Right, guys? We're all into that, right?
I am.
Yeah. And so they're checking out a car, him and Letty, and they're like, check out this car. And it's got a boat motor. And they're like laughing about it, like, huh, isn't that funny? And then he's like, this could be my life forever. Definitely nothing wrong will happen now. And then all of a sudden his cousin is like yelling about something. And he's like, yo, cuz, what's up?
And all of a sudden we find out that basically his cousin has squelched on a debt, and his car's going to get repoed by this guy. But Dom's like, hey, man, you know what? I will race you for this car.
Right, because what's the most important thing? Like, I don't know if you know this. Do you know what's the most important thing to Dom? It's not particularly clear in the movie, so you have to watch pretty closely to find out.
It's living a quarter mile at a time.
That's incorrect.
Just kidding.
Yeah, it's family.
It's family.
Yeah, it's family, guys. It's a spoiler alert. He's super into family. His cousin, by definition, family. Right? We can all agree on that. And so he's got to take care of some baznass.
Yeah, but guess what? He can't use his own car. He's got to use his cousin's POS. And they you really get this thing kind of souped up. And
I do.
Using like the innovation of the people around them. They're like inspired by all the Havana stuff. And dude, we get a pretty intense car race.
Yeah. What's funny?
Right away.
I just love the idea also that he squelched on a debt to the best racer in Havana. He's like, he's got the fastest car in Havana. It's like, what's the chances of that? That seems crazy that your cousin is a international superstar car racer and you just squelch on a debt to the guy who's the best racer in Havana. It's almost like we're in a movie right now.
Almost, but not quite.
So then they go off on this race, fires spilling out of all the cars. People are trying to stop Dom, but guess what?
He's unstoppable.
Right. That's why they called this. That's why they called this movie Unstoppable, starring Chris Pine.
Yes.
Right. And so he's zooming around. This piece of shit. He's souping it up. He's got NOS going left and right. He's got this special thing where he pulled off something from the engine, and it goes super fast, but gets really, really hot and then bursts into flames. So then what does Dom do? Turn that car around, turn that front upside down, go backwards. And now he's racing backwards. Because
he's getting cooked alive.
Yeah. He can't handle it. The guy tries to stop him with a motorcycle. Doesn't stop Dom, obviously. And then at the last moment, pulls some more NOS, gets through that finish line. And then one of 1,000 times this happened in the series. This car is going, I don't know, 120 miles per hour. Who knows? He just opens the door and jumps out. And then the car launches
so the
into
brakes
the sky.
don't work, and he's gonna crash into this crowd of people. And so he's like, I'm just gonna ditch this thing in the ocean. And it does this incredible flip, 40 feet in the air, bursts into flames, and lands in the ocean.
Yeah. So then, but it's then he gets up and he's just totally fine, even though he just fell out of a car going 1,000 miles per hour. Gets up. Basically, the guy's like, I respect you now. And he's like, don't even worry about your car. I only wanted your respect. And then his cousin's like, but what about my car? And he's like, this is your car now. And it's his car. So basically, he's the man. Everyone fucking loves him because he's Dom.
Yeah, man. He's a cool guy.
And he's living the life. They're on their honeymoon and just living it up in Havana.
What could possibly go wrong?
Right. They're smooching.
What could go wrong?
They literally smooch. At this point, we have a full penetration sex scene. And I'm into it, obviously. And then they're smooching afterwards because, they're married now. So cuddling. And doing all that married stuff. And then she's like, I'm hangry. And he's like, I'll go get you something. So he jumps out of bed. Right. He goes to get something to eat. Uh-oh, someone's having some trouble with the car. He's Dom. He can't help himself. He goes over and goes, hey, can I help you with that car? And she's like, yeah, but also check out this video. I own you now. And as a viewer,
Charlize Theron.
Yeah,
she's my favorite.
Is that right? Your favorite actress?
Currently, yes, absolutely.
And so
her and Atomic Blonde, holy shit!
Atomic Blonde's
Great
fucking
movie.
Sweet.
Did you see her new one? The
Bombshell,
long shot or whatever.
Isn't it Bombshell? The trailer just dropped on Thursday.
Oh no, I'm talking about Long Shot, the one where she plays like movie. A presidential.
No.
Anyways, it was fine. I saw it. It was okay. And then,
so basically she owns him now. She's like, I've got something that's going to make you turn on your crew. And we don't know what it is yet, but all of a sudden.
His face, basically, you can see, he's such a good actor. You can see the reflection. You can be like, oh my God, he's seeing something horrible right now.
Going on.
Right.
And then we cut on over to probably my favorite scene in the entire movie. And we've got The Rock going absolutely bananas coaching this girls' soccer team.
Wait, this was your favorite scene of the movie?
It's so funny.
It is no joke.
I'll get into this
horrible.
later.
It is awful. This is an awful scene.
It is amazing. And
it is not good.
He's basically intimidating all these little kids, but then a guy in a suit comes up and he's like, hey, dude, we're going to need your help.
So your intel was spot on. The Damocles 7 EMP weapon that went missing in the Gulf, arms dealers from the Liberation Front have it in Berlin. This thing can wipe out an entire electrical grid in a major city. No lights, no power, instant Stone Age.
Chloe Maya, you can't let her run by you like that. Let's go, let's go.
What's the Class 4 WMD? Do you have any idea what's at stake here?
Yes, I know exactly what is at stake here, okay? If the pink butterflies beat my red dragons, that means we lose the championship. Which means I have 20 little girls who are crying, and that's not a good thing. Which then means I have to spend a lot of time in ice cream shops and a lot of time at Tay-Tay concerts.
Tay-Tay?
Taylor Swift. Gotta be shitting me. Get it together. Okay? Let's go, girls.
We need...
Oh, boy. Anyways.
There we go, man. And there's The Rock, dude. Injected into the movie and
gleaming
like,
dome. I'm looking at his head like, whoa, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like an egg.
So basically, he just immediately calls up Dom. He's like, hey, man, we got to get going. I got this job for us. And Dom's like, all right, I'll get the crew. And then wham, immediately smash over to Germany where we just
jump into the middle of it. Yeah, it's actually the first time I think they've done this where they just jump into the middle of the thing. Usually, obviously, there'd be a build up and you see the whole operation. Here, it's almost like a matter of course that obviously they're doing some crazy shit. It's almost part of the joke. And so they bust through some walls. They're driving away. They're like getting chased. So then they have this whole thing rigged up with this giant, like, whatever wrecking ball that comes down. And it's just crushing people. Clearly, 1 million people die. I'm not sure if they're bad guys or good guys. Who cares? Am I right, guys? And crushes all these people. It starts coming back. And so they're like, oh, you didn't kill everyone. And then it comes back and kills everyone. And they're like, great. But at the last moment, what happens? Dom?
At the last moment.
Dom?
Oh.
Pulls
Dom
up.
decides.
Yeah, he's the whole premise of the movie is that Dom decides time to go rogue and be the bad guy.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
basically, they're all split. They're going back to their safe houses, and Dom and The Rock are driving off together. And The Rock has the EMP, and Dom wrecks him like crazy.
Obviously.
Wrecked him, damn near killed him, and he gets out, he steals the EMP, leaves The Rock, or Hobbs, I guess we can call him Hobbs.
Nah.
Leaves him there to get caught by the police, and he drives away.
And then The Rock not being able to, and then Dom drives away. He brings the EMP onto a plane, drives straight onto a plane that doesn't even land, basically. And then it's revealed that, yes, indeed, he's delivering this EMP device to Cypher. Charlize Theron. And is this where they reveal the motivation, or is that later?
Not yet.
Yeah, we don't know yet.
Because now all of a sudden we got to send The Rock to prison.
Got to.
He's going to be, he's going there.
Yeah.
And we get to inject one of our own from another. Does this really need a sub movie month movie? We get Kurt Russell back in the mix.
Straight up. He's Mr. Nobody.
Didn't look as good here, but
no, he's still looking pretty good. I mean, it's all right. Looking definitely a better actor than his bozo sidekick, played by who is it played by? Scott Eastwood or whatever.
Yeah. Scott
that
Eastwood.
Bullshit guy. Yeah, he's basically Clint Eastwood's, hopefully his grandson. Can't be his son, right? Is his son?
it could be.
I don't know. But anyways, he was a terrible actor, and really, I didn't like him very much. But they bring him in, and they just, you're going into jail. Who's right across the way from him, though?
Dude, the one, the only Shaw, played by Jason Statham.
Do you got a sound clip of this quote?
No, I thought about it because they have some really good back and forth.
They crack me up here. I got something like a few seconds.
I will beat your ass like a Cherokee drum.
Yeah.
There we go.
He has like 6 of those lines in this
He has
movie.
a lot of them, yeah. It's a lot.
Dude, he's got a lot of really good lines. Dude, him and Statham are just, I mean,
I feel like
we're
you're
just
saying
going
good.
back and forth with this bullshit all the time. It's really funny.
I want to see Hobbs and Shaw because I liked them a lot in this movie together.
Yeah, and I think
I thought their
that's
chemistry was really good.
I guess I really disagree with you guys. I thought it was they were like a comedy team.
Yeah.
It was just all
And
comedy.
it's funny, Kyle always says the one, the only, whenever he introduces someone with sort of a lead up to their name. But that's kind of a joke on this because with Shaw, it's like his whole family is kind of in the business because his mom shows up later. And then in the new movies, I guess they introduce Vanessa Kirby.
Right, yeah.
Who has to be, I guess, his sister because she's
I think it's
also
his sister,
a Shaw.
yeah. And then there was a Shaw, the previous Shaw, Owen Shaw was the previous Shaw that they took down in the 6th movie.
Well, he even shows up.
And he shows up in this one, yeah.
Yeah, the brother.
It's a family business.
It is a family business, Deckard Shaw. And so, anyways, they go back and forth a whole bunch. She's like exercising a whole bunch. Do we get even an in-between scene at this point, or do they just break out of prison
I don't think so.
pretty much
I think
right
all of a sudden
away,
it's
right?
a prison break.
Yeah, then it's a
Basically,
prison break.
The suits want The Rock to really help them out, and he's like, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to get out of prison the legal way. And all of a sudden, there's like a quote-unquote gate malfunction. His door slams open. All these guards rush up to kick The Rock's ass. Statham uses this opportunity to grab a taser from a guy and short out the circuits, which opens every single door in the prison.
It seems wrong, yeah. Seems like that was a security risk.
Yeah.
They might have taken care of that during some inspection or something.
Huge fight breaks out, like a chase scene between Shaw and Hobbs. They're, running, kicking ass along the way. And Hobbs is just more of the brute force, and Shaw, he's got the, some finesse, but also kicking some serious ass. So it's quite interesting.
I really feel like some of those guards they got to fight The Rock were like, they specifically casted like 5'6" thin guys because he just looked like a monster tearing through some of those people.
Right, yeah.
He did.
It was awesome.
He is a monstrous person, though. He is gigantic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why he hasn't played the Hulk. I mean, that should be like his thing, right?
I mean,
No?
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
I don't think there's any reason why
he's the Hulk in every movie he's in.
Right.
he played, what was that? They rebooted Conan, right? Wasn't he Conan the Barbarian?
I mean, he was not Conan the Barbarian. He was Hercules.
Oh, Hercules. Okay.
Yeah. Oh. Anyways, guys, come on. He's clearly not Conan the Barbarian. And so they end up escaping. 10 minutes. They escape prison. Mr. Nobody's like, that took longer than I thought, and then brings them over to nowhere, which is where Mr. Nobody like organizes everything. And they have a whole bunch of jokes by Tyrese Gibson's character, who's like, "Hey, I'm like, what? Like, what am I, 11th on the most wanted list? Come on."
So yeah, they find out that all of them after their job stealing the EMP have made the top 10 most wanted list by Interpol, except Tyrese Gibson. They're like, no, you're actually number 11. He's like, what the fuck, man?
He's like,
I should be in the top 10.
And then he's like, we should use God's Eye to find them. And they're like, good idea, idiot. Like, we've already done that. And he's like, what? And then, but then Taj Parker, played by Ludacris, he's like, wait a second, I can 100% use God's eye, but backwards, and we'll find them. And everyone's like, whoa, I told you they were good. And then it turns out, though, that where is Dom and Charlize Theron, Cypher?
They're right there.
They're there, and they're like, hey, guys, what's up? And then they get into the room. They beat up a whole bunch of people. They're just like punch people in the face. It's like, no big deal. Don't worry about it. Then what do they even steal? Oh, they steal God's eye, and they get the fuck out of there. And everyone's like, shit.
And right before they leave, Charlize grabs Dom, kisses him right on the mouth in front of Letty, and it's uncomfortable.
And when they get back on the plane, Dom's like, what the fuck? Like, what was that just for you? What was that just for you? And then she's like, don't forget like what this is all about. And we're finally revealed what's causing Dom to be such a bad guy. Lest the audience get confused and actually think he's a bad guy. He's not. He's being forced to do this because who does she have hostage?
His son
and ex-girlfriend who had his baby. The timing of this is so wrong, it's pretty crazy. Like, it was startling watching 6, 7, and 8 in a row and having her be like, before you knew that Letty was alive, I was pregnant, but I didn't want to tell you. It's like, we've seen you in every movie, and at no point were you ever pregnant. Like, when did you have this baby? When is this? How long have we had this done? You were in the last movie, not pregnant. So, it's very strange.
It is. But sometimes things happen, man.
Yeah. They live a quarter mile at a time. She probably had that baby in, like a month, maybe a couple weeks. Fast as you can, Fast and Furious, really.
Yeah. Actually, before we even progress further, I totally forgot. There was a really good quote right before the prison scene when Kurt Russell's talking to The Rock. Zach, you know this one?
No.
So he walks up and he's in his like orange jumpsuit, and Kurt Russell's like, "Oh, how's that suit?" He's like, "A little tight in the crotch, like usual."
I don't remember that.
Good God. But anyway, I digress. Continue with the story.
Then Don, they're like, "What's his name?" And she's like, "Marcus." I call him Marcus, middle name, but I thought you should give him his first name. First of all, it's like, you haven't given that baby like a name at all. You call him a middle name and just gonna spring a new name on the baby. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, man.
And then on top of that, you're like, it's obviously gonna be Brian. Anyone who knows the series knows that baby's being named Brian, like now. So just get it over with. Come on. It's obvious.
Right. Well, not yet. Anyways, now Cypher's like, "Hey, Dom, by the way, I need you to go ahead and track some Russians because they got something I want."
Right.
And he says, "Okay."
And they also are able to know that he's going to New York because, they track through the dark waves. So basically they realize that the plane, because they're on a plane and then they're not being tracked, they must be using almost like a mythological way of traveling across the world, which is
like a griffin.
Exactly. They're riding on a griffin. But sorry, I got cracked up for a second. They know enough people and they're powerful enough that they can ride between all the satellites and stuff. They know exactly where satellites are going to be looking at all times, and they can just kind of ride this plane in the dark areas. And so they realize, following these dark areas around, that they must be heading towards New York. And so they're like, okay, we're going to head them off. They go to New York and they're like, check it out. Look at this big room of cars. And everyone's like, yeah. All the car heads in the audience are like, fucking yeah. And then everyone's like, I like that car. And there's a joke about that car. It's like, I like that car. And there's like a joke about that. And then Tyrese Gibson's like, I like that car. And you're a Black Santa. And it's like, great.
Oh, what do you call him? Blanta, that's right.
Yeah. It's like Blanny.
And the guy just looks at him like, what the hell?
Right. And so anyways. There's what's turning out is that there's a Russian delegation with their Russian Minister of Defense that kind of riding around the city at this moment. They've got the nuclear football, basically all the codes to launch nuclear missiles, the Russian nuclear missiles. And Cypher pulls out all the stops to get this nuclear football. So
it's crazy.
First of all, Dom's like ready and set to go to get it in the end. But they're sending out they're basically taking over all the cars in the city that have that are advanced enough to be driven by themselves. So they take over these cars and drive them all after this Russian delegation. And it's kind of like knocking off all the cars, but this limo is somehow getting away. It's got like a super driver or something. And in the end, it's driving all over the place, all these cars going after them, so many explosions, all kinds of shit. And then it finally is stopped when they pile a bunch of cars out of a parking garage on top of it. And
it's raining cars.
It's
crazy.
raining cars. Hallelujah. It's raining cars.
And then Dom makes his entrance, and he's looking super badass.
Yeah,
and he's using one of my favorite all-time weapons in any video game, the riot shield. It's unbeatable.
Good. I was going to say,
it was smoke grenade at one point.
Smoke grenade riot shield combo. Can't beat it. You cannot beat that at all.
So anyways, he starts cutting in. They're like, this is unstoppable. He can't cut into this fucking limo. And then he cuts into their gas tank instead. And it's basically like, I'm going to blow you up if you don't give it to me. And what do? They give it right up. They don't die for those nuclear codes. They just give it up to him. He jumps into his car. He starts driving away. But he's stopped by his gang. Uh-oh. They're all there. And they're like, you're not getting past us. Except Scott Eastwood is an idiot and makes a giant mistake. And everyone's like, fuck this guy. He sucks. And Dom gets away. They go all over the place, driving after him. They shoot harpoons into him. And there's this very long scene of them like snagging him with these harpoons, but then Dom using American muscle, and breaking free of his harpoons. And he gets out of there. He's able to like flip these cars into one another and drives away. And Letty tails him on foot and is able to catch up with him. And he eventually crashes.
Steals a nuclear football from him.
Yeah, he eventually crashes. He has to get out. He ends up getting confronted by Shaw. Oh wait, we did miss a part, didn't we?
Yeah, that's right. Sorry.
Yeah. So while he was driving around New York,
chases him.
Yeah. While he was driving around New York before this event, he has a meeting with Shaw's mom, and clearly something's being set up. Even because everyone knows he's a good guy now, he's setting something up. There's a plan in motion. It's a foot. So, anyways, we see him.
We don't know what it is.
He shoots Shaw twice.
He gets confronted by Shaw. He shoots Shaw, keeps going, and then Letty eventually steals a nuclear football from him. And he's like, "I can't shoot you.
You're my wife. The law says I can't shoot you. We can't testify against each other.
Lame.
In court."
Just kidding. But all of a sudden, around the corner is Cypher's right-hand man, Rhodes, and he holds a gun to Letty's head, and then Dom's like, hold on, bro, let me hold a gun to your head. And then we got ourselves a classic Bangkok Rules standoff.
That's right. That's what they call it. It's a classic name that they call that thing.
Yeah.
Anyways.
It's not Bangkok Rules. We know what that is.
Right. And so Rhodes is the Game of Thrones guy for everyone who wants to know. Got a big old red bushy beard.
Christopher Heeveju or Heeju.
Sure. And
Tormund Giant's Bane, Jamie.
And so they eventually he gets away with he takes the nuclear football and they leave. But they are none too pleased with Dom's actions because they're like, yo, you weren't going to kill your wife. That's not good. We don't like that. And so what do they do?
Cypher is not happy with it.
No, not happy with it. And so she actually has Elena, one of our favorite characters from the series, shot and killed. She's been in the series since Fast 5. And she dies.
And she is now out of the series. Maybe a couple memory scenes later. Who knows? But she is now dead. And all of a sudden, the crew is like, dude, you know where they're going? A Russian submarine base.
They have to be.
Hell yeah, we're going to a Russian submarine base.
And then Scott Eastwood is like, we're not going to Russia. We're not going to start a war by going to Russia. It's like technically it's like owned by some like rebels. So it's not really Russia. And they're like, technically that's true. And so they head out there. Basically, Dom heads in first. So we see them. They're all kind of like scoping it out. What was funny here is they said we can do. Oh, I heard it in the background.
We're getting close.
And so it was funny because originally they were like, you can't take any car you want. And now they're like, Mr. Nobody's like, you know what? It's going to be World War III if we don't stop this. So we should probably take whatever we want. You get anything you want. And so it's funny because everyone picks all these interesting things. Like The Rock has this giant, like almost armored snowplow, and Taj takes a tank that's like super mobile and has like an automatic gun. But then this was the funny thing with Tyrese Gibson, which he had really wanted this orange Lamborghini, and he still took the orange Lamborghini, even though they were going to like Siberia. And it was this giant mistake. Why would you fucking take that car? But he just really wanted that car. It didn't matter. And then, of course, there's 1,000 jokes about shrinkage before we get to the actual, because it's so cold, like shrinkage.
Yeah. He's like, dude, I don't even recognize myself.
And so they head into the mission. Dom heads in first and basically knocks out the base with the EMP, and then has one more try with it and knocks out the submarine as well. So they're able to reboot the submarine and take it over. And his gang's there though, and they're going to try to stop him. And so he heads off because he's basically just setting up to make sure that everything goes okay. It's going to be a launch, so he goes and is hanging with Rhodes at this point. The gang though is in there kind of doing their thing. And who do they send? They send some people to the submarine, other people to cyber hack. They're basically going to have a hack battle with a bunch of hackers. There's like hackers hacking away. And people are fighting. They're fighting like big people with beards. And then
we even get a guy who comes in at somebody with a wrench. It's pretty hardcore.
Good call. I didn't even really notice. And there's definitely fire in this, particularly in the upcoming scene. And so, and then, but like Taj and Roman, Tyrese Gibson, and then someone else. They're all on the submarine, and they're trying to figure out what to exchange to pull out the firing pin. And like Taj is the only one who can, but he's been locked out of the room. And basically, it looks like the submarine's just going to launch its nuclear missile, and everything will be fucked. But at the last moment, they're able to pull it out, and so now they have to basically try to stop them, one last time, because Cypher is able to out-hack Ramsey and get the submarine into the water. So basically, if Cypher was able to get to the submarine herself, they'd be able to replace the firing pin and actually launch the nuclear missiles. They still have the codes. They still have the submarine. So they need to stop that submarine from getting out to open water and having Cypher be able to get to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so
now we get a chase scene, man.
Right? Because they're
on the ice.
They're trying to we have to close the lock to make sure it doesn't get out to sea. And the only way to do that is we have to drive over this fucking ice. And so they start going, and immediately Tyrese Gibson, he's like, his car is spinning around because the Lamborghini is like a piece of shit on the ice. And it is hilarious, obviously.
Mm-hmm. And eventually a rocket gets shot at him, and his car is like, teetering on the edge of going in. And all of a sudden, Lute is able to save him. He shoots a harpoon into his door. And when the car goes in, the door flies off, and Roman is riding around on the door like a sled, just screaming his head off. It's pretty funny stuff.
Yep.
But then all of a sudden, the sub starts like busting through the ice, and I don't know how fast this thing is going, but it is like
it's got to be going super fast,
these
right?
Cars.
That's impossible.
Yeah.
We've learned enough about submarines from this podcast to know there's no effing way that submarine is out racing those cars, right?
Yeah. It had to be cruising like 90 miles an hour.
That's not how fast submarines go.
No.
So it's ridiculous, and we turned off the movie at that point. We don't know what happens after this.
Yeah. Anyway, the shit does hit the fan. Stuff is going absolutely crazy. There's all kinds of explosions, type of stuff.
And finally, the plan, but the other plan starts to actually be afoot at this point, because look up in the sky. Who is it? It's the Shaw brothers, and they are flying on literally they may as well be riding on Griffins, because they have these rocket packs where you're like, I said, they're like, do those exist? No, they can't exist. Never mind. But like, they are insane, not real shit. And they just fly straight onto the plane, Cypher's plane. And the idea is that they're going to, it turns out to be Shaw and his brother, who he's rescued from prison, or was helped to rescue from prison by Dom and his mom. And not Dom's mom, Shaw's mom. Duh.
Is this when we get the damn it.
Yeah.
The flashbacks, right? This is like when it goes like
exactly.
a Saw movie.
Yeah.
And they start flashing back.
Yeah. And so then the idea is that he's going to rescue the kid so that Dom can get back in the action. Oh,
yeah.
and they do.
Oh yeah, he does. He's going around killing everybody on the plane with like a baby in a car seat, and he's like making sure to keep the kid entertained the whole time. He's like making all these faces.
Which is very reminiscent of one of the greatest movies ever made. Do you know which one it's very reminiscent of, Kyle?
No,
it's mentioned on this podcast actually fairly frequently. It's called Face Off.
Face Off.
Face Off. When they have over the rainbow, they put like earphones on a kid when there's going to be a big shootout with Over the Rainbow playing. In order to keep him like not quiet, to be too scared. Yeah,
that's a great scene in Face Off.
Right, and they basically ripped it off in this. And again, second time I turned off the movie. I was like, can't watch this bullshit.
But you wanted enough that you turned it back on.
I did like Jason's facial expressions though.
Yeah,
so
where
funny.
he was like trying to entertain the kid or whatever.
It cracked me up.
So anyways, they go back, and Dom, hearing that his kid is safe, finally takes care of business with Rose. And this was nuts because I don't think there's ever been a different moment in the film, in the series as a whole, where Dom has so directly like murdered someone. Like he snaps this dude's neck. He like literally punches him in the head with his head like draped over it's almost like he curb stomped the guy. It was actually like kind of disturbing. I didn't love it for my main character to do that. But he was angry because the guy had killed his ex-girlfriend. So
obviously, yeah. So he gets back in the action, and he's basically lets Cypher know that she is screwed because he's got 2 wicked killers loose on her plane. And she's like, "Well, you know what? I'm going to get you. I'm going to shoot a heat-seeking missile at you and kill you." And he's like, "All right, bring it on." And so the heat-seeking missile is flying. It's going nuts. And Dom uses a tactic we've seen in some of our sub-movies. Pretty clutch. He is able to direct the heat-seeking missile back at the submarine.
Yeah.
Kaboom! Huge explosion.
Actually, almost too big of an explosion.
Almost.
He jumps over the submarine. Again, jumps out of his car without any problem. Is sitting there, and you're like, oh, he's going to get scorched to death because it's like scorched trials over here with like fire everywhere. But then all his friends kind of group around him with a car, and like this giant fireball goes around him. And everyone's like, yeah, it's fine, right? And Dom's like, yeah, I'm fine. And I was like, would he be, though? Would he be fine?
I doubt it.
Probably not. Also, they kind of explain it away, but is it really not a concern that the nuclear missile was on that submarine that exploded? I guess not. Because submarines can theoretically sink, and no one's concerned about their nuclear missiles exploding. Yeah.
But also during this, Cypher gets away.
Yeah.
And
she escapes.
Dom is safe, and he's like, "Hey guys, thanks for believing in me. By the way, here's my son. I'm going to name him Brian." And he's like, "Yeah, you will."
And I'm sitting there being like, what a surprise.
What I love is that the ending is like the ending of all the other ones pretty much. They're always eating, family time, sunset, smiles.
The weirdest thing is watching them all in a row. Shaw, Jason Statham's character, literally murdered like one of their really good friends.
Yeah.
He like burnt Han alive in a car. And then he's just hanging out with them. They're like, hey, good, yeah, right, Shaw? And it's like, I know he saved your kid and he like helped you and like saved your life and you saved his life. But like, I don't know, Han, you're kind of being shitty to Han's memory. Am I wrong?
Yeah, dude. Han was a good character, man.
Han was my favorite character, actually.
Han was awesome.
I hated when he got killed. Yeah.
Wait, who killed Han?
Shaw did in Tokyo.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
You find that out in a later movie, Alex.
No.
Oh,
Number 7.
No. He in the cutscene at the end of 6, he explodes Han's car, and then they repeat it in 7.
Oh, that's right.
They show it again in 7.
Yeah.
So when they reveal Jason Statham's going to be the bad guy in 7, it's through a cutscene where it shows him killing Han. And he also blew up Dom's home in Los Angeles. Like he planted a bomb to try to kill Dom's family, and it exploded, but everyone survived. And Dom's like, you know what? Cheers. Here's some Corona. Like, let's all enjoy our Coronas. Sponsored by Corona.
Yep.
He's family now, man.
I know. He really cares about family. I think actually that was kind of the point of this one, is to show how like Shaw is the same as him, which was funny because his younger brother, the Owen Shaw, who was like the bad guy in 6, the whole point was like, I can manipulate you, Dom, because you only care about family. And then his brother comes in and it's like, I recognize a kindred spirit. You care about family. It's all within like the same people. Yeah. Anyways,
It's hardcore stuff, man.
I may as well be doing my review right now because I thought this movie, like, it's basically gotten worse and worse since 5. 5 was great. 6, I was like, interesting, but got really weird and like silly. 7 was even sillier and weirder, but it did have some like good emotional stuff with it at the end, with the fact that they had to do all that stuff with Brian retiring. And I was glad. I kept on waiting for his character to be killed. And I was actually kind of dreading it, but I think they treated it well by having him kind of just like leave the life and not be a criminal
off
anymore.
in the sunset, literally.
Yeah, no, I actually enjoy. I was very happy that occurred. There were moments where I thought, "Oh my God, they are gonna have this is where he dies," and then it's like, no, he didn't die. And in the end, I was actually surprised. I was like, "Whoa!" I'm actually thinking this is one of these movies that actually surprised me, even though they're mostly like predictable, regular action films or whatever. And then this one, I actually thought just got so silly. It's almost like a comedy. Sometimes with the Marvel films, I feel the same way, where it's almost more of a comedy now. Even the action scenes are like supposed to be funny for some reason. So you're supposed to be laughing the whole time at being like, look at these characters. They're so funny. Like a submarine.
I mean, definitely with Roman and Statham and Hobbs, or, The Rock.
It's true.
That's what you're getting.
Even Dom is supposed to be funny. I mean, I guess Letty's the only one who's not really that funny at any time. But I don't know. I thought it was very spectacular looking, and I liked. I mean, it's very loud, so I'm sure the sound is considered good. And there was a giant submarine, and I do think the submarine was the best of the small submarine, like this cycle. It is the best used submarine of the cycle for sure. Even as you noted, with Dom kind of using a submarine tactic to get away from the heat-seeking missile and blow up the submarine. Mm-hmm. Like it's very reminiscent of like classic submarine films. So that's pretty cool. So I'm going to bump it up from where I was. I'm going to go in at 5.5.
There you go.
Yeah.
5.5.
5.5.
All right. Who wants to go next?
I'll go.
All right.
So I love these movies. Always have. But I'm going to agree with Jamie with the word silly. It's getting silly. I mean, it's pretty much like, all right, what haven't we done? And how can we incorporate it into a new movie and surprise the audience while keeping the characters like with pretty much the same jokes? Like Tyrese is just there for comedy. Like he's saying ludicrous. I mean, they're saying the same things they always say in these movies.
Tyrese is one of my least favorite characters in one of these major franchises. Like, I don't understand why he keeps on being the exact same, not very good character.
Exactly. They don't develop them at all. But I mean, if I'm looking at all of them, I'd say, Jamie, so did you say 5 was your favorite?
5 is my favorite, and it kind of goes down 5. Well, no. Yeah. So one thing I will say is I enjoy 3. The first one is good because it's the original, and I think 3 is actually a lot better than people think. When I first watched the first 4, when we were anticipating 5, I was surprised that 3 is kind of like made fun of because it's actually a lot of fun and a lot of street racing. Like, I do enjoy all of the street racing scenes. They always have at least one in any of the given entries. Doesn't matter if it's what it's actually about. Overall, there's always a street racing scene. And 3, I actually think, does the best with kind of that stuff. Yeah. The first one looks pretty silly on the racing, whereas the third one looks pretty cool. So I've always liked that one, but I think 5 is pretty clearly the one that changed the franchise to become what it is.
I remember seeing 4, and I was like, "Now this was a damn good movie that I didn't expect."
You liked
5
4?
Was like
I did not like 4.
I mean, I liked 4 because it was just like a refresh. I thought it was going to be terrible because I'm like, really, they're making a 4th Fast and the Furious? But I liked it. And then the 5th one was just amazing. And the 6th one I loved when they introduced The Rock. And I really loved the ending when The Rock killed the bad guy at the end.
He was in the 5th. Yeah, he was introduced in the 5th.
Oh, is that the 5th one when he just shoots the guy? He killed my team?
He was kind of the antagonist in the 5th one. And then the 6th one was when he was part of the team for the first time.
Oh, okay. Well, then changing that, 5 is definitely my favorite. Because that's the one I thought that was 6. Anyways, 8 was silly, but really good. I love Charlize. I like that they got her in there. I did not like, what was it, Scott Eastwood? That was terrible.
He shouldn't. He's a bad actor too. Like just flat out not good at acting.
Yeah.
So he shouldn't be in these movies.
But it was just kind of like, it was just like getting pretty much everybody came back, add a couple new characters. It was entertaining. I liked it. I liked the submarine stuff. I don't know if we didn't really talk about it too much, but when they took control of the cars and they were like driving out of the windows and then there was like a car tidal wave chasing them, that was just ridiculous. I remember seeing that. Did it need a sub? Yeah, it needed a sub.
I like the sub in this one, actually.
I like the sub. I'll give it a 7. That's what I'll do.
All right, man. Solid rating.
I'd see it again. I'd always watch these fast movies a lot. So,
yeah, definitely. I can jump right in here. I think like a lot of what you guys have said, between 3 and 5, man, I have a hard time, but I think 5 is probably my favorite one. And Zach, I mentioned this in an earlier episode, but you and I saw that movie in theaters together, and I'd never laughed so hard at anything in my life, because in that opening scene when they're chasing that train and they drive this car right off this like 400-foot cliff. You and I are sitting in theaters, and you lean over to me and pretty loudly you're like, dude, they do all their own stunts. They're like falling like 400 feet down. Like, oh my God. But that movie is super kick-ass. And I think if you were to watch the first 3, like I can't imagine for Brom, like this, you probably think you're watching just an entirely different franchise. Like,
yeah, 100%.
This is so different than those first few movies. It's crazy. And I think, The Rock, injecting him into the movie did a lot of that. But like you guys had mentioned, this one is pretty silly. It's like over the top. I don't know why it bothered me. I really like Charlize Theron, but I did not like her hair in this movie. That's something weird. But
didn't it remind you of what's her name from Gone in 60 Seconds?
Oh, yes. Was that Angelina Jolie in that?
Yeah, with Nick. Yeah,
I just watched that, and yes, she does remind me of that, but I was surprised when I rewatched Gone in 60 Seconds. Angelina Jolie is in it for so short. She probably has a total of like 7 minutes of screen time. She's such a minor character, yeah. But she was on all the posters and so much part of the advertising.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like you guys had also mentioned, these characters have been the exact same since we've ever started, except one of the things I really enjoy with this franchise is we've been able to see the progression of the acting skills in them over 8 movies. Because in number 1, it's not super great. And, it's, getting better. So I like that. Watching this movie actually makes me want to totally rescind my vote on whatever I voted for when Zach wanted the Rock movie season. I want that so bad. It's so funny to me. I couldn't get enough. Him and Shaw, whatever. It's just like little schoolyard bullshit conversation, and it's just funny. I don't know.
I just remember that quote at the end of the movie, Kyle, I think it was the middle, but when The Rock was like to Shaw, he was like, I'm going to punch you. What did he say? I'm going to punch you in the mouth. Your teeth are going to go down your throat, and then I'm going to kick your ass and kick your teeth, or something like that.
Yeah. Or it was something about shoving your toothbrush up your ass.
That's it.
And then right after Roman was riding on that car door in the snow, The Rock pulls up. He opens the door. He's like, "Yo, shrinkage, get in." It's like, good God. The action I thought was good. The action in these movies is nonstop. Did it need a sub? Absolutely. Did it need the EMP? Probably not. We were talking a little bit about EMPs right before the podcast, but I'll let Alex bring up that in a little bit. I don't know what the point of it was exactly, but I liked it. I liked the franchise. This is not the best one. Not the best one, but I'm going to go ahead and say this probably is the best sub action that we've seen in any of these Does It Need a Sub Movie Month series. I gave Hail Caesar 7.75. But
If you
give
give this more than a 7.75, I'm probably just going to quit the podcast.
Oh, okay.
Give it an 8,
All right,
Kyle.
cool. Got now.
Call his bluff. Call his bluff.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
7.7501.
I'm a man of my word.
12 inches.
I'll match it with a 7.75.
Okay. I'm still in, but only barely.
Yeah.
All those Brom fans just got really worried.
We're sweating.
And all those Brom haters were
Headphones on.
come on, Kyle, come on.
Yeah.
Just do it. Send him out the torpedo tube.
That's right.
And do a really dramatic unveiling after the commercial break.
Yeah, let's cut the commercial.
He's back. He's still here, guys.
Do one of those stupid promos, Kyle, where it's like, next week's episode of Submersion, someone might leave.
Good God. All right, who's next?
I'll go. I'm going to say right off the bat, I thought this was a very average movie. It had its funny parts. It had its action. I thought it had some really weird parts that didn't really make sense. I don't want to say loopholes, but the EMP blast, that doesn't make sense to me. I know, Kyle, you just mentioned that. I don't know how an EMP blast works, but I figured it would have destroyed everything in the submarine.
That is my understanding, too. I thought it just fried electronics, and they were totally useless.
That's what I thought, too, and that's what it seemed.
Unless I'm wrong. I don't know.
Escape from LA would tell us that's definitely what happens.
Right.
And that we were talking before, Alex, Kyle, and I. It's like it created that force wave, like that shock wave, and it was just like, wait a minute, do they even do that? I don't know.
That's probably just so you know it's happening, I guess, as an audience, because I want to know. I also, the necklace that he uses, so Shaw are able to find his airplane at the end.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I don't know why they just weren't able to use that from the very beginning to find out where he was instead of having to use this God's eye thing backwards, unless it's something that intentionally has to be turned on, but they never show him intentionally turning this thing on. It just showed that it was always on. So I don't know why they had made such a big deal out of trying to find him or track him when it was clearly around his necklace or on his necklace around his neck the entire time. It's little things like that when I'm watching. It's like, why do they even bother making a big deal out of it? It just doesn't make sense for what happened previously in the film, I guess. Other than that, the submarine looked pretty cool. The action with it, although unrealistic, was pretty cool. I guess if they really wanted to render the submarine inoperable from the very beginning, they just had to leave the hatch open when they left because they dived that thing immediately. And as we know from the Indian submarine, you can't really have a submarine full of water because it creates a whole bunch of problems. I feel like that could have been an easy way to deter it, but we would have gotten all the great action if they did that. So overall, decent movie, very average though, in terms of story and everything. I'm going to give it a 5.3. And it did need a sub for the movie because I thought it was really good. Nice. In terms of how they used it, even though unrealistic, I still liked it. So 5.3.
All right.
All right.
Is that
so
everyone?
That's me. It's me.
There we go.
Famous catchphrase.
Alex worked on a little bit of a smaller scale. I'll talk a little bigger about it. This was what big trend in Hollywood you kind of see with just like piling in every actor you can find off the street. You know, hopefully you draw in their fans. They got Zach. You put The Rock in there. Zach's on board. You put Charlize Theron in there. All those Charlize fans come out of the woodwork. And I kind of see right through it. I mean, it feels like a facade to me. This is going to be a hot take, boys. Controversial opinion alert, but they just piled in a bunch of actors. There's not much substance behind it. The action there's a lot of action. It was goofy. I like the first scene the best. I'm a big Vin Diesel guy, so that's me coming in board. I got to see my boy Vin.
Oh, there you go.
But I liked that race scene, even though it was ridiculous. It set the tone. I knew it was going to be ridiculous. The engine's like blazing red hot, and he's driving this rickety old jalopy. But after that, all the action seemed like comic bookish, the way they were fighting through the prison and stuff like that. It was just so ridiculous. The storyline is wild. The dialogue is goofy. I hated the soccer scene. That was terrible.
Oh, come on.
I agree. It was terrible.
I just don't get into this kind of stuff, and that's why it's another reason I don't get into all of the comic book stuff. It just feels like once they got you in, I feel like they think that they can keep you, spending your $10 at the box office every year, and they don't have to really put any substance behind it. So I thought this was just a garbage movie, and I'm going to give it a 4.
Wow. Thought it would have been lower.
I will say, as everyone's kind of piled on here with the submarine, obviously this one of any that we've seen of this cycle, it needed the submarine movie. It was one of obviously the more interesting parts for me since we're reviewing a submarine movie, and rerouting the torpedo into the back of the one car was pretty wild. That was fun.
By hand.
Yeah.
I loved that part.
If you're going to go over the top, at least that was really fun and unique. But seemed at least somewhat feasible. I feel like with it, we've heard of torpedoes kind of misfiring, and that seemed like, I guess, of the more far-fetched stuff, something that I guess could have happened. And,
the most far-fetched thing that happened in the entire series was actually in 6, where they chase an airplane trying to take off for like 20 minutes. Like they literally, a plane is trying to take off for like 20 straight minutes. And you're like, where are they? I don't even understand.
World's longest runway. I mean, it is unreal.
They would have been,
there fighting.
It would have literally been, I don't even know, 20 miles or something? Straight up 20 miles of like runway or something? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Been a long time. Or more. Probably would have been more.
I'll say I really liked 1 and 2. I know 2 is not well regarded at all, but I kind of get on board with the street racing and all that, and 1 kind of had heist elements to it, and I like a good heist movie, like The Italian Job. This was such a far cry, such a far cry from what I was used to. As you alluded to, Kyle.
Do you think Mark Wahlberg will ever show up in the series?
We can.
How much more are they going to do? Do you guys?
They've got.
There's definitely 9 for sure.
10 slated right now.
Yep. 9 is 100% being made.
I know
10,
Vin Diesel has said, for your trivia there, Vin Diesel has said many times he only does these movies so he can continue to create the Pitch Black Chronicles of Riddick movies. Because he gets the money from those, and then he actually is like the main financier of the Chronicles of Riddick movies.
Now, really? I will say, Fast 9 is on hold because Vin Diesel's stunt double. Damn, I think he's in a coma. They had a serious accident on set filming, and right now production has halted.
Serious?
Oh yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yep, production has halted on Fast 9.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Some say that the Fast movies are cursed because they've had some terrible things happen to some of the crew members and obviously cast members. So
that's not a Zach fact?
No, this is before Zach fact. So that's, yep. I'm not pulling anyone's chains. Subs.
Dang.
All right. Should I get into some trivia? I feel like we're like starting to push time a little bit.
Yep.
Again,
time.
For usual, usual.
Do it.
I'm only going to do one main trivia thing because there was one main trivia thing associated with this film, and it regards the relationship between The Rock and Vin Diesel, kind of. But there were a couple kind of interesting things. Otherwise, apparently Scott Eastwood is supposed to be Paul Walker's kind of replacement in the series. They make a very particular effort to have Scott Eastwood's character have similar choices as Paul Walker's character would have. So Paul Walker always liked to have foreign souped up cars, and Scott Walker goes after those types of things. And there's like other homages, like his relationship with Tyrese Gibson is very similar to Paul Walker's relationship with Tyrese Gibson in Too Fast, Too Furious. So like they're making concerted effort that he's going to be the new Paul Walker in the series,
that's horrible.
Unfortunate. Then again, I didn't think Paul Walker was very good early in the series, but then I thought in 6 and 7 in particular, he actually was quite good. I feel like he was actually like a much better actor than when he like first started the series through time.
Well, because they'd grown so much over,
it's true.
you know,
family,
that many
family
years.
growth and all that stuff.
Right.
All right. So the main, and then the other one that I found kind of interesting from trivia was that Helen Mirren went uncredited in her role. So she didn't have a credit for that role in this movie. And she actually campaigned to be in the film, saying that she wouldn't even be acting. She just would enjoy her time making a Fast and the Furious movie. And then she was offered to be in the film and went uncredited. All right, so then there was an infamous message posted by Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, on Instagram. Basically, it confirmed some rumors of on-set friction that was occurring. So this was the quote: "This is my final week of shooting Fast and Furious 8. There's no other franchise that gets my blood boiling more than this one. An incredible hardworking crew. Universal has been great partners as well. My female co-stars are always amazing and I love them. My male co-stars, however, are a different story. Some conduct themselves as stand-up men and true professionals, while others don't. The ones that don't are too chicken shit to do anything about it. Candy asses. When you watch this movie next April and it seems like I'm not acting in some of the scenes and my blood is legit boiling, you're right. Bottom line is it'll play great in the movie and fits this Hobbs character that's embedded in my DNA extremely well. The producer in me is happy about this part. Final week in Fast 8 and I'm finishing strong. Iceman cometh. Fast 8, #0 tolerance for candy asses." So apparently what happened was that Vin Diesel had been angry about announcements and planning of Hobbs and Shaw, the movie that has just been released. And basically the idea that it was going to be the next entry in the series, and that instead of kind of running in parallel, they were going to delay Fast and Furious 9 to make this Rock standalone film. And so he, in turn, because he's a big part of Fast and Furious, kind of strong-armed and used his position to cut some of the Rock scenes in Fast and Furious 8, in The Fate of the Furious. And so it created a lot of friction. And then they had a discussion, and they said afterwards that they gained a lot of clarity from it, but it seems like they do not have a particularly good working relationship anymore.
Well, I can't imagine after that.
Yeah. So, and then apparently Tyrese also had some bad things to say about The Rock in regards to this kind of stuff. And there's been just it seems like at this point they've spun off the franchise and probably it will not come back together again, would be the guess. Hobbs will be totally separate.
Really?
Yep. All right. And then I found it kind of interesting that there's a similar cinematographer that has worked on a lot of these films. So Fast and Furious 9, Fate of the Furious, Furious 7, Fast and Furious 6, Fast 5, Fast and Furious, Tokyo Drift. They all have the same cinematographer because he worked with Justin Lin, who has done those films other than Furious 7. Sorry, other than Furious 7 and Fate of the Furious. So he's had 5 collaborations with Justin Lin. What other films? So he had hilarious filmography when I was looking at it. So what other actors from films he's also been a cinematographer on would have been good to include in the next one? In Fast Furious 9, who do you want to see show up? So what about Steven Seagal from The Patriot? 1998. Steven Seagal. Do you want him to show up? Could he be the bad guy in it?
He's in The Patriot?
Not The Patriot you're thinking. It's 1998. The Patriot.
Okay.
Dude, Kyle, my mind
Patriot.
went to the same movie, and I'm
Different
just sitting
Patriot.
here like, there's no fucking way.
Different Patriot.
When was Mel Gibson either fighting or befriending Steven Seagal?
It would be funny to try to get Steven Seagal cut that into the other Patriot. No, it's a Patriot with Steven Seagal.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess with how ridiculous some of the stuff has been in these movies, throw Seagal in there.
Would he be the bad guy though, or do you think you would have him be?
I'd see him being a bad guy.
Right,
I would
kind of be the bad guy because then he doesn't move so much. You could just sit in a chair.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. I picture him wearing all black with black sunglasses, and he's just like talking into microphones or something.
Dude, that's the exact same mental image I had. Kind of like him at that judo competition or whatever.
That's exactly what I was thinking about.
Exactly what I was thinking about. For all those listeners out there, you can Google that. Just do Steven Seagal judo competition, and you probably will find it.
It's spectacular.
Oh, yeah. What about Howie Long from Firestorm? Do you know who Howie Long is?
Yeah, the football player.
There we go. Good. I think of him as the action
don't
star and star of Firestorm, but fine. Also football player.
I don't envision him in this movie at all.
That would be actually really funny if they were like, and the next installment of Fast and Furious is going to have Howie Long. And everyone would be like, but why? Like,
Right.
why? What about Jackie Chan from The Tuxedo?
Now, Jackie Chan, like First Strike Jackie Chan, him versus Statham, I think could be very fun. Him versus Statham and The Rock could be very fun. But time is a fickle bitch.
Now it's not going to work
And
so well.
Jackie is a little older, but maybe he could be like a mentor and we could see where Shaw got his moves.
Right.
Ooh. I can see that take.
What about LL Cool J from Deep Blue Sea? Ladies love him.
I'm honestly surprised he hasn't made it into this series already.
Yeah, you would think early on he may have been able to sneak his way in, and now with all that, what is it, NCIS LA money,
Yeah.
they want to bring him right back. Because ladies love him. I don't know if you guys know that.
Oh, I think
No,
I've heard that.
I don't keep up on my LL Cool J.
Well, ladies love him.
Okay.
What about Kevin Costner from The Postman?
No.
No? You're saying no to Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner?
Yeah. No, all right. Yeah. I'm in
I'm
agreement
a no.
with Zach on this. Yeah. I
That's
would
a no.
not want him in this.
And what about Ed Harris? Now, it may be a shock to everyone, but Ed Harris was actually in a movie already made by this guy. It was called Needle, right? And it was about a guy who's it's a horror film where there's a guy, right? And he's like sneaking around and he's like killing people, but then he sneaks into the wrong house one day because guess whose house it is?
Ed Harris's.
Yes. And then all of a sudden he's trapped in his world now and actually switches around. All of a sudden Ed Harris is the killer. And he doesn't even like it because Ed Harris is all creeping around. He's slipping and sliding all over the place. And he has no idea where this guy's going to be because he's slipping. He's got tubes all in his house that's filled with grease.
Why is it called
Filled
Needle?
with grease.
Why is it called Needle? Because I saw a movie that this guy did a cinematography for called Needle, and then I just made up a movie with Ed Harris in it. But I'm not sure why we call it Needle at that point. Probably you call it Grease Tubes.
I like that.
Starring Ed Harris. So anyways,
I could see that. And then Ed Harris is like a mechanic, and he's having all kinds of problems, like holding on to wrenches and stuff because he's so greasy.
And
but then,
the cops come by and they're like, "Wait, why are you so greasy, man?"
Yeah. And then there comes a scene where they need to put oil in the car, and he pulls his shirt off and they can wring it out and they got oil for the engine.
Right. Actually, that's like the longest scene in the movie is that.
Mm-hmm.
They actually don't come back. They don't come back to the person being trapped in his house at all. The rest of the film, it's mostly his kind of day-to-day life in the mechanic shop.
Yeah.
And then he is recruited by an FBI agent to go do drag racing.
Ooh, now we're talking. And he replaces Paul Walker in the series?
This is actually, I think this is not called Needle. I think it's just called Fast and the Furious 9.
It could be.
Yeah.
All right.
So anyways, Phantom Zone.
Engage the Phantom.
Phantom's engaged, sir.
So this was very easy. I actually think I've even used it the last couple of weeks. I've hinted to the listening audience that maybe they should take note of Fast and Furious, Fate of the Furious being used in my Phantom Zone because we were going to do it this week. And yeah, so this has obviously Statham in it, Mechanic Resurrection, that has a submarine in it, Tommy Lee Jones. He's in blah, blah, blah with blah, 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 right?
Right.
Done and done.
Beautiful, Jamie.
Okay.
Yep.
It's worldwide. So this last weekend, if you guys are following us on social media, as you obviously should be, you probably saw that I went to Baltimore and I actually got to set foot onto a real submarine. This is the first time in my adult life I've done it, and it was pretty darn exciting. So I decided, what the heck, I should probably cover that submarine. Am I right? So I went on the USS Torsk, and that is a Tench-class submarine.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it's one I have not covered before. It's a World War II diesel-electric sub. 80 of them were actually originally planned to be built, but the U.S. was like, we don't need that many to beat Japan in the Pacific, so they canceled 51 of them. So they were doing quite well. They were built between 1944 to 1945, and the last one that was in service with the U.S. was the Tigrone, which was in service until 1975. So they, like I mentioned, diesel electric. They have a length of 311 feet, 8 inches, a beam of 27 feet. They have 4 diesel engines, which generate 5,400 horsepower while surfaced, and the batteries can handle 2,740 horsepower while submerged. On the surface, they'll cruise along at 20.25 knots. Submerged, they will go 8.75 knots. For their endurance, they can last 48 hours while submerged at 2 knots. However, if they're cruising along at max speed, they will completely drain their batteries in 1 hour. They can also be on patrol for 75 days total. They have a crush depth of 400 feet. They hold 10 officers and 71 enlisted men, have a range of 16,000 nautical miles. For weapons, they have 10 21-inch torpedo tubes, 6 forward, 4 aft, 1 5-inch deck gun, and they have the Bofors 400 millimeter and the Oerlikon cannon. So, none of these were actually lost during World War II, but eventually, like the U.S., when they started offloading these things, sold one to Pakistan, and that was lost in service in 1971. Not good form, guys. Like I said, the USS Torsk is on display at Pier 3 in Baltimore. You can see that, and they got a number of historic ships. Go down there for like $20. You can see all of them. It's pretty cool. They've even got like giant wooden ships from the 1800s. It was pretty sweet. And they were going through it was really cool. You got to get the sense of how tight it was, and I can't imagine living on that for 75 days. It would be absolutely crazy, especially with 80 people. But they had all kinds of cool facts. I suggest if you're in the area, go there, support them, and take a tour of it. It's very cool. Some of the stuff, I don't want to, rip off everything they've got, so I just included just a few things here, which I thought were kind of interesting. So the Torsk is actually a Norwegian translation for cusk, which is a fish that belongs to the cod family that's regularly eaten. And I don't know about you, but if I was getting on a boat, and kind of, nervous about being shot down, I wouldn't want to be thinking of a fish that gets eaten, but that's just me. And they also had this really cool device called a Kleinschmidt evaporator that could make up to 1,000 gallons of fresh water per day. And these boats would hold 4,000 gallons of water for the crew, and they could also hold a little bit more for the batteries, because I guess the batteries need water to run on. So that was pretty interesting. And the thing that blew my mind the most was in the engine room, when they're running on the surface, it would get up to 120 degrees in there, and it was so loud that you couldn't, it was just deafening. You couldn't communicate unless you were using hand signals. So I thought that stuff was pretty interesting. Really cool to get on there and just see how absolutely cramped it actually is. And I can't imagine life on one for 75 days. That would be pretty crazy. But that's it.
I saw. So
Nice.
did you mention it was the last boat to sink a Japanese ship? Did I miss that?
No, I did not mention that.
Yeah, so I was trying to find out if it was in a movie, because oftentimes these museum ships are used as like film setting. Doesn't seem like it. Perhaps because it's kind of an odd look. If it's like a kind of a certain type of class, it may not be like make sense to film on or something like that. But they did mention in some of the books that it was the last U.S. submarine to sink a Japanese ship during World War II.
Dang.
Yeah.
Good to know. The more you know. Knowledge is power, is it not? All right. That's all I got.
You guys think I was actually looking up news?
It's back.
Hey, you fixed
Happy,
it.
Alex? I found it for you.
Nice job. All right. So submarine news is looking a little thin, but I did find a couple articles. If you're a fan of the Titanic, you'll be happy to hear that they have actually dived down using a small submersible again to look at the Titanic. And it's the first time in 14 years that they've gone down. They've used a Triton submarine, or submersible, that is manable. And they said that they now have 4K footage of everything. So if you're a big fan of Titanic, you'll be able to look at this new footage. I did read into some of it, and they said that the ship is actually deteriorating quite a bit from the last time that they were down there. I don't think it's going to look that great, but I think it's pretty interesting that they're able to still dive down. And now that they have new technology, they're going to try to map it. I also read with the submersible, and they're just going to videotape anything and everything that they can. So that's all being done from a Triton submersible. So if you're a fan of that, you're really going to enjoy it.
I actually saw that on it was on like the national news tonight, and I was like, oh yeah, dude, we got subs on the news.
I found another article. I guess it's not really about a submarine, but it's about the command on board with it. According to this news article, second in command of a secret attack submarine was relieved of duty. I don't know if this was because he tried his own mutiny or not, but one of the executive officers of the USS Jimmy Carter was relieved of duty due to loss of confidence in his personal judgment. Right now, we don't have enough information, but this is something I will be following for everybody. I want to know why he was relieved of his duty here. I would like to think it's a mutiny, because everything I've read on this says that when he was even promoted to leadership of this, they had congressmen over there to watch his promotion for his boat on this, and they described the second in command here as an incredible asset, and his career in the submarine and the Navy has served multiple sea tours and both fast attack and ballistic missile submarines. So I'm going to keep following that for everybody that listens and pays attention to this, because I want to find out more. If I really have to, I'm going to do a Freedom of Information Act, and I will let you guys know everything that had happened.
Good
on
idea.
this.
That should be its own podcast, actually. Spin that off.
Alex's Freedom of Information Act.
Yeah.
Lastly, if you're looking into starting your own new business, the companies that actually produce the tubes. What are those things called? They shoot the fish. What is a torpedo? Excuse me. Couldn't think of it.
Torpedo tube. A fish tube. They call it a fish tube.
Fish tube. There are only 2 companies right now that make them, and one of them is threatening to quit and leave the business altogether because they're not getting enough work for it. The company is called BWX Technologies, is threatening to relocate all of its industrial capacity to other programs. They said right now that they're mainly making the tubes for 2 different classes, the Virginia class and the Columbia class, which is, from what I understand, supposed to come out in several years, so it's not even out yet. But they do not have enough work because Navy shipyards aren't able to keep up with building enough submarines. So if you're looking to get into a new job or you want to start a new company, you can look at this, because there's only one other company that makes them right now, and that could create some serious competition. But I would recommend you do a little bit of research, because if for whatever reason the torpedo hatches don't open or close correctly, you could be in a lot of trouble underwater. So
yes, do some research, please, before you
yes
do that.
Yes.
I mean, think about it. Like, there's not, we're not just churning out subs like 50 a year or anything like that.
No, I was reading
and
they at the height of the Cold War, they were the U.S. was only putting out about 4 new submarines a year, and right now they're struggling to put out even 2 a year at this time.
And so even right now, if you've got like 12 torpedo tubes, you're only manufacturing, 24 for these 2 subs.
Yeah,
so, I don't know.
Exactly.
You just got to spin it off into other. You have to kind of make a whole bunch of torpedo tubes, but figure out what else you can use them for. Like
good call.
Like big straws or stuff like that.
Oh, straws for the Iron Giant.
Exactly.
Yes.
See, now I'm thinking outside the box.
You see, you're on top of it. You could be a billionaire and you don't even know it yet.
Well,
you just got to come up with something smart.
I'll be CEO. You're going to be CTO, so you take care of actually making them. And I
could do that.
Get the strategy going. I also seeing here that a new submarine film, a trailer for a new submarine film has dropped online. Kristen Stewart, it's called Underwater, and it's going to be a January 2020 film from 20th Century Fox. So actually a major motion picture. Kristen Stewart.
Hell yeah.
TJ Miller, they are on a submarine. They've been drilling in the bottom of the ocean. They're about 7 miles down and stranded because they've released sea monsters.
You said TJ Miller's in that?
TJ Miller's in it with Kristen Stewart.
Wow. Okay.
Are you saying Kristen Stewart or Christian Stewart?
Kristen Stewart. Kristen
that one
Stewart.
chick.
From
TJ
Twilight.
Miller, I thought was getting dicked in Hollywood because
blackballed, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So that caught me off guard.
Yeah, it says TJ Miller, Vincent Cassell, Jessica Henwick, John Gallagher Jr., and Mabadu Athey, along with Kristen Stewart. And directed by William Eubank. So, yeah. But it does seem like
that's to my attention.
January 10th, 2020 when that's released. So
I know where I'll be.
Exactly. We'll all be together. Right?
Oh, yeah. Sitting down next to each other, throwing popcorn, laughing.
Live recording. We've always talked about doing it in a theater. I'd love it.
Oh, yeah. That could be one we could go on like a Sunday morning in IMAX. There'd be no one there. And we could definitely do that.
Kristen Stewart movie.
All right, let's
probably
finish
could
this
go
up.
up like Friday night and no one would be there.
Ready to fire, sir. Commence the countdown.
4, 3, 2, 1. Give it to me. All right, here we go. So for the countdown this week, we just watched a Fast and the Furious film, which was part of a franchise. There are 8 installments in the franchise. So for our countdown tonight, I'm looking at movies. You say 8, that's got to be up there for one of the largest franchises, right? Well, not really. There are actually 78 film franchises with more installments than Fast and the Furious.
Gosh.
78.
78. Damn. There are a lot of pornos, television movies, and animated franchises that compose a lot of that.
Would one of those franchises be one of the ones we watched for episode 69?
Those didn't make the cut. There's more of the conventional VHS style porno movies out there. Quite a few of them. Like Debbie Does Dallas is a big one. 20 of those.
Emmanuel, that was kind of like a softcore, I think. That one has a lot of entries.
How many Saw movies are there? Is that more than
Saw, I think, was right at the threshold. It was 7 or 8, so it did not make the list. But I do have the top 10.
I know a couple.
Yeah, I'm
Godzilla?
Sure. We'll get there.
We gotta go through it. Yeah, we gotta go through it.
We got 10 that I'm gonna call out as some of the bigger franchises with some Hollywood releases and things like that. So here we go. Number 10 is Nightmare on Elm Street with 9 entries.
Nice.
Ooh.
Okay.
Artistic horror film. I enjoy the first one quite a bit, but I haven't seen many of the later entries.
First one's very good.
Yeah.
Then you got some Freddy versus Jason and some other guys.
That's good.
Yes.
Well, that's for the Friday the 13th one. Yeah.
Number 9, Star Wars. If we don't include any of the animated stuff, there are 10 live action releases.
Does that include the Ewok film?
It does not include the Ewok film. We're counting the 8 that have been currently released of the actual main storyline, and then the 2 prequels, Solo and Rogue One.
Okay.
Okay.
Number 8 is Halloween with 11 entries.
That's one where the first entry is good, and it kind of descends from there into complete madness by the time you get to 4 and 5, which are awful.
I heard the newest one was good though, right?
Right, yeah, because they kind of rebooted it. They kind of basically said everything after the first one didn't happen, and we're just doing kind of a sequel from there.
Yeah. It's like what they're doing with Terminator. All right.
Number 7 is Pink Panther with 11 entries.
Oh boy.
Never would have guessed that.
You say, oh boy, but they actually were very highly regarded films up until Steve Martin got a shot at it, and I'm not going to blame Steve Martin for it.
There's some of the later ones, like the one with the son of Pink Panther with Roberto Benigni. I think those aren't particularly well regarded either. But yes, you're right. The earlier ones are very well regarded.
Yeah, they even had an Alan Arkin one in there that doesn't have a rating. I'd be interested to see how that one played. Continuing down the list here with number 6 is, mentioned earlier, Friday the 13th, Jason Voorhees movies. There are 12 of these movies. There's
12, really? I'm trying to remember exactly, because obviously Jason X was the 10th one, and they had a reboot. Oh, and they had, I'm trying to remember what the other one was. Well, anyways, I've seen them all. They are a lot of fun. Some of them are worse than others. I personally like 4 and 7 and 1, and then 3 is pretty good.
There's Friday the 13th, Friday the 13th Part 2. There was Part 3.
Yeah, that's bad. 3 is pretty good.
This is a good one. Friday the 13th, the final chapter.
Yeah, that one's the best one. I actually think 4 is the best one of all of them.
Well, spoiler alert, it wasn't the final chapter because there's a new beginning.
New Beginning is the worst one. 5 is terrible.
Then there's Jason Lives.
Not good.
The New Blood.
New Blood I actually enjoy. 7's good.
Jason Takes Manhattan.
Nah, that one's not great. Let's be honest. It's not a great one.
Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday.
Yeah, that was also, I didn't like that one.
Spoiler alert, once again, it was not The Final Friday because there was Jason X.
Right. And that was this one in space, and it's really silly and kind of stupid.
Then you got Freddy versus Jason.
Now I'm remembering Freddy versus Jason. Yeah, that one's also silly and not very good.
And then Friday the 13th, 2009.
is useless. It was a Michael Bay produced film that sucks.
Oh, God. Michael Bay produced it?
Yeah.
All right.
Pressing onward, I can tell Zach is furious. Number 5 is Star Trek with 13 installments. Counting down here, some notable ones coming up here. But number 4, I decided to add this one to the list. I think it counts. I think it had some Hollywood releases. It's The Land Before Time with 14.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, I gotta at least say something about that. The original Land Before Time movie. I have that on Blu-ray. I love. That's my childhood animated film right there. That's nostalgia right in the kicking in the nuts. I cry every time when the mom dies. Love it.
There's a sad story. Yeah, sad story related to the child actor who voiced Ducky in that movie.
Yep. Wait, what was the sad story?
Oh yeah. Well,
you don't have to tell me.
Is it a long story?
No, it's not. She was also, I think, in Poltergeist or whatever, but she was murdered.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Just ruined everything.
Yeah, well. It's just the truth. I only speak the truth.
Call off tomorrow. You're going to be a wreck.
You can't handle it. I'm going to go get a pint of ice cream.
Number 3. Jaws movies, 27 entries.
Whoa, so many Jaws movies.
Actually, it's 007 James Bond. 27 of them. Believe it.
And I believe that, man.
And like six of them have submarines, I think.
Ooh. There was 2 that weren't of the Eon company.
Right.
Which puts them up to 27, but one did still have Sean Connery.
Never say never again.
Forget who the other guy was. Yep.
And then the original Casino Royale.
The original Casino Royale, yeah.
That's the other one, yeah.
Number 2, Carry On. I don't know if you guys know about these. These are British comedy films. They all start with the name like Carry On this, Carry On that, Carry On Soldier, Carry On Jack, Carry On Cleo, Carry On Behind, Carry On England, Carry On Abroad, Carry On Constable, so on and so forth. Your typical British comedies, I assume. If I didn't mention, there are 31 of those. I hear I hear little Carly, I think. Number one is, you guys mentioned it before, Godzilla.
Gojira.
Gojira. 32 under the Toho banner and 4 Hollywood, total to 36 Godzilla films.
Does that count the animated features?
That probably does include the animated features. I'd have to go back and look. I'm not a big Godzilla buff, but it's number one on our list of
we gotta do
film
a season
franchises
of Godzilla
with more installments than Fast and the Furious.
Zach Facts, it's Zach Facts.
When you're going down.
Get some Zach Facts when you're going down. All right, here we go. Zach Facts. I kind of got one umbrella fact with many facts under the umbrella, you could say. It's almost as if it was raining Zach Facts and the facts were dripping off the umbrella.
Nice.
For those visual learners. Now,
visual learners listening to a podcast.
The Fate of the Furious. The film inspired an abundance of novelty foods and alcoholic drinks. If you guys didn't see these in local Walmarts, Kmarts, Targets, and Aldi's. So here's a list of the different novelty foods and alcoholic drinks that were inspired from the Fate of the Furious. You could get if you're a cider fan, you could go get a 6-pack of the hard Cypher cider.
Ooh.
Maybe
hard
you're
cider?
more of a ice cream fan. You could get the Hobbs and Shaw caramel vanilla twist.
Interesting. That's very clever. I like that a lot.
Or maybe you're more like Alex and you want some Fireball. So you could get the Rhodes Ginger Ale with Fireball.
Nice.
All right. Yeah, there we go.
Or maybe Kyle, maybe you're do you like lemon, Kyle?
I do.
Well, you could get the Sweaty Letty Lemon Drop.
Nice.
Sweaty Letty.
But maybe you really have a sweet tooth and Ben, do you like ice cream?
I love ice cream. You've actually talked me into it. I think I'm going to have to get some after the podcast tonight.
Well, maybe you can still find some in the clearance section of the Luda Krispy Kreme ice cream.
Oh, Luda Krispy Kreme. Is that made with like real donut chunks?
Yes. All right.
Don't overthink it, Brown.
Master improviser.
And the last one I've got for you tonight is if you walk in a bar and you want a really good drink, you could get the Loaded Vin Gin Diesel.
Oh, spiked, huh?
So with gin and diesel fuel, huh?
Yeah, see, you get it, Alex.
Yeah, that'll get you drunk real quick, huh?
That gets you something, man. I don't know about drunk.
You know what is drunk?
Right. It's different to everybody.
And that's it. That's all the facts.
Excellent.
I think we just came under time, right?
Hardly. We're way over. All right, Brown, did you ever figure out what
I
was
do have
going
an
on?
update. There's only a couple Mr. Bean feature films. It's mostly compilation of the sketches and the TV episodes. He did do some Johnny English films. There's 2 or 3 of those. But nope, wouldn't make the cut.
Should be another series or another season for us Bean movies.
We could. Would we get abstract with it, or is it all just Mr. Bean?
Oh, really? Because a bunch of ones where people eat beans.
Thanks for listening to Submersion. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Don't forget to subscribe for new episodes every Thursday. If you like what you heard, please leave us a rating on iTunes.